Luke 21. Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box, and he saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. And he said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them, for they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on." And while some were speaking of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings, he said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And they asked him, "Teacher, when will these things be? And what will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" And he said, "See that you are not led astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and 'The time is at hand.' Do not go after them. And when you hear of wars and tumults, do not be terrified. For these things must first take place, but the end will not be at once." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be your opportunity to bear witness. Settle it therefore in your minds not to meditate beforehand how to answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you they will put to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your lives. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation has come near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let those who are inside the city depart, and let not those who are out in the country enter it, for these are days of vengeance, to fulfill all that is written. Alas, for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days, for there will be great distress upon the earth and wrath against this people. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be led captive among all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And there will be signs in sun and moon and stars, and on the earth distress of nations and perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves, people fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to take place, straighten up and raise your hands, because your redemption is drawing near." And he told them a parable. "Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they come out in leaf, you see for yourselves and know that the summer is already near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all has taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But watch yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and cares of this life, and that day come upon you suddenly like a trap. For it will come upon all who dwell on the face of the whole earth. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are going to take place, and to stand before the Son of Man." And every day he was teaching in the temple, but at night he went out and lodged on the mount called Olivet. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the temple to hear him. Welcome back to our video series. Today we are in Luke chapter 21. Now there is a lot of end times discussion here called eschatology, or future things, the study of future things. That's what eschatology means. Jesus, in his walking on the earth, has been asked many, many questions about what will be the signs of his coming, what will be the culmination of his reign, what will be things that we should look forward to. And there's a couple things that Jesus addresses here, and he does speak about, as far as I understand it, the temple that was destroyed in AD 70 by the Romans when they came and sacked Israel, specifically taking over Jerusalem and carrying off people into captivity and many of the things that were used for worship in the temple. Now, the thing is, by the time AD 70 comes around, Jesus has already died as the sacrifice for sin. So there's actually no need for these things to continue. And also, Jesus being the once for all sacrifice for sin that would please the Father, when Jesus died, that the veil in the temple that would keep you from the holy place to the most holy place, where they would go and offer the sacrifice for sin, that was torn in two from top to bottom. God ripped it in half, signifying that Jesus is the new and living way to come to the Father, that it's no longer through these sacrifices that pointed to him, but through his one-time final sacrifice for sin, for the sin specifically of his people, whom he died to redeem. That being said, I actually want to go back to these first couple of verses in Luke chapter 21, because there is so much to be said about eschatology, and it's not something that I feel well-versed enough in to be able to share, but just to read what Jesus said. There were things that were going to happen in that generation that did indeed happen within a few decades of the time that Jesus said it, and we have those historically checked out. If you would like to learn more, let me recommend Expedition Bible is a YouTube channel. He goes to the Bible and goes to the sites that are listed in the Bible and shares the history and the archaeology that again validates what the Bible has said. Now, the Bible's true because God says it, and there's no question about that. But also, we do have evidence that we can go back and look and validate the existence of Pontius Pilate as a ruler over the Jews. There are many people named in the New Testament that we can see, indeed, who they were, where they lived, and what they did that are, like I think it's Erastus, the city treasurer, in one of the places Paul goes is mentioned. So the Bible is historically accurate and true. We don't need to validate it with outside sources because it is internally consistent and coherent. That being said, I don't want to go too much into eschatology today. What I do want to talk about is the widow that came and gave all that she had, as opposed to the people that Jesus said that she actually gave more than them, though financially it was a lesser dollar amount. It was, many of them were just giving out of their abundance. And that's something that we can look at our own lives and say a couple of things. One, everything we have has been given to us by God, and so we should be thankful. And then two, everything we have been given by God is to be used for his glory, for his purposes. That doesn't mean every drop of money you have has to be donated to a charitable organization or a church. That's not what I'm saying. But to be used for God's glory. So for me, we have 10 children, 8 of them living here at home still. Part of the thing we do is feed our children. We clothe our children. We care for them and give them health care and provide for their needs and their education. We are home educators. So we are charged with doing all of that with the resources that God has given us. And he always provides everything we need. Now, maybe not always everything we want, but always everything we need. And honestly, the more we learn to rely on God's sovereign hand in providing for us and seeking to give our lives over to using the things he's given for his glory, the more you'll find that you're very content with the things you have, whether they be many or whether they be few. And that's exactly what we see with this widow. She wasn't holding on to what she perceived that she had, but rather she gave it to God. And you see this in the Old Testament as well. One of the prophets goes to a widow and her son who are basically running out of food, and because they gave first to God what God commanded through the prophet, God actually sustained them by multiplying their oil, multiplying their flour, and providing for their physical needs, even though they were sacrificing. So there's more to be said on that, but that's just something that we can all think about individually, because we all have different circumstances in our lives, different finances, different needs in our families, in our communities, in our churches. But something that Jesus said is everything I have, or everything we have, has been given to us by him. And so we ought to use it for his glory, just like this widow did. And God will be glorified in it. He doesn't need our power. He doesn't need our money. He doesn't need our intellect. What he needs is our obedience and our hearts. And if we have a heart to honor him and serve him, then he will be glorified in our lives. We'll talk to you tomorrow as we run into Luke chapter 22. See you then.